To go to webinar, web events made easy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Today we have the DV Green Card Lottery Program. We're having a little bit of a technical issue here in terms of getting our technology lined up. I fortunately have a very specialized assistant. So again, just to repeat, for those of you who've just joined us, thank you so much and good afternoon. This is Bernie Wolsdorf, the managing partner in the Wolsdorf Immigration Law Group. One of the critical elements that we're going to answer today is, do I need an immigration lawyer for the lottery? And I'm going to start off with the good news, and the answer is no. You do not need an immigration lawyer if you listen carefully to this program. However, if you are selected in the DV Green Card program, you may want some professional assistance if you don't catch all the points that we're going to cover today. The reason, very simply, is the government last year, for example, sent out 100,021, yes, that's 100,021 so-called winners with only 50,000 green cards actually issued, which means by definition, anybody who is notified that they are in fact a green card lottery winner by the State Department has a statistically slightly less than 50% chance of actually turning that into a green card. What we're going to address today is if you are selected, how you will in fact convert that to a green card, as well as doing the basic application form. So the first question again is, what is a diversity visa program and how does the program work? That will be our initial topic of discussion. The second and most important point is who is in fact eligible to participate in the program. And then number 3 is what to do once you've actually been selected. As mentioned, they send out twice as many winners as there are actually green card slots available. So I love asking the question, for those of you who are in California together with me, if there were 100,000 winners to the California lottery, would you buy a ticket? The simple answer is those are pretty decent numbers. However, the program is becoming increasingly popular, and therefore you want to make sure that you give and do it correctly. The fourth topic that we're going to talk about today are common issues and problems associated with the program, and I like using the word deceptively simple. Everybody says the Green Card Lottery program is easy, and I'm absolutely confident that most of you will discover many new points at the end of this webinar that you didn't know about previously. So moving on to the general overview of the DV lottery program. This program was made permanent by the Immigration Act of 1990, commonly known as IMACT. The rationale was to further enhance and promote diversity of immigrants. Of course, the question is, does America actually need more diversity? And we could go into that. But the simple bottom line is that the green card lottery benefits those people who have been disadvantaged since the 1965 changes in the U.S. lottery system. So as a result of this, the green card lottery actually substantially benefits people who are born in Africa and Europe. Africa being the big winner, and you're probably trying to work out where my fake English accent comes from. So I'm actually a South African born, and my fellow compatriots from Africa do have a substantial advantage in the green card lottery. Over 50,000 of the 100,000 winners last year were actually African born. In second place were Europeans. And I did an article a few years ago which basically said Asians and South Americans need not bother to apply. It's still unfortunately a little bit true because the lottery is heavily slanted. There's actually 6 different lotteries, and I don't use the word rigged, but let's put heavily weighted against those countries that have contributed substantial numbers of immigrants over the past 5 years. Now, we're also going to talk about the selection by lottery. One very fundamental point that we're going to talk about is only 1 entry per person. That is 1 entry per person. Of course, if you are married, that is a married couple, you double your chances of success if both husband and spouse scratch that. Let's try one more time. If both spouses, in fact, apply online. Now, this is an online application. The annual window for applications, DV 2013. Don't ask me to explain the numbers, but the one that opens just tomorrow is the DV 2013. That's because of the immigration fiscal year. And there will be a period from October 4 until November 5, 2011. That is just over 30-day window in which you can, in fact, apply online. Now, there's no government fee to register. If you go onto the website and you find websites that ask you to pay money, they're probably scam websites, and there's no assurance that, in fact, they will result in doing the job properly. In fact, some of these are just collecting your money and not the right people. Our office does do them. We don't necessarily encourage people to do them, but some people who just want to do them right, if they've got complex issues, if they've got cross-chargeability, yes, they need to do it. I don't heavily sell the program, but if people need assistance because they just don't want to bother, yes, we have people that do that. Where you really need attorney assistance, quite frankly, is if you are selected in the lottery, because this is a deceptively simple program. There is a rigid enforcement of regulations with very high rates of disqualification. The number of people whose applications simply don't make it, and that is not only the people who are actually selected. We already explained that only 50% of them will get green cards, but people who don't comply with the technicalities. One of my favorite ones in this is if your name is Muhammad, there's something like 45 ways to spell Muhammad. If you don't spell it the same as your birth certificate says, and the question is, what does your birth certificate say? You will be disqualified if there's an inconsistency between your birth certificate and the way it's written. And I always find discrepancies between birth certificates, passports, and other such documentation. So that is our general overview of what we're going to cover today. Let's move on to the word native. This is an unusual word. Applicant must be a native of a qualified country. What exactly is a native? And the primary issue here is place of birth. I am very proud to call myself an American. I'm a naturalized American citizen, and I proudly display my American passport, but I am not a native of America. I am a native of South Africa, and that would make me a potential winner in the green card lottery because over 50,000 of the 100,021 visas allocated last year went to Africa in order to create so-called balance in the immigration game. The fact of the matter is that Asian nations and South American nations have been winning the green card battle as it is since 1965 when the racial quotas were dumped. So this program heavily benefits those people born in Africa, with Europe coming in number second. Now, what are the requirements? The applicant must meet either the education or work experience requirement of the DV. Strangely enough, both of those are quite complicated concepts. So let's make sure that we meet it and know exactly where we are. The visa allocation under the DV visa program. 55,000 visas are issued annually. 5,000 have been allocated to another law called NACARA that will expire in a year or two. It'll go back to 55,000. So for this year, we're slightly shortchanged with only 50,000 green cards being issued. That is a lot of green cards, folks. Very complicated formula based on region and country of chargeability. The way they work it out, honestly, there's algorithms, math. I've read it 10 times. I think I understand part of it. You don't need to know how they select. The bottom line is I will give you the facts that you need to know in order to successfully apply for the green card, and if you are selected, to also get you through to the green card stage. Now, there are 6 separate regions. Africa coming up number 1, Europe number 2, Asia number 3, South America number 4, Oceania, which is basically Australia, New Zealand, and a few other those islands, and North America. Where is North America? Well, we're in North America. Canada can't apply. I think it's Bermuda. That's about it. Restrictions. Now, fewer visas for higher admission reasons. I've already explained that. Those countries that have given high numbers of green card entries to the United States are prohibited, and the government then takes a 5-year look back at people who have got green cards. So if, for example, you come from Canada or Mexico, where there have been a lot of immigrants to the United States, then those countries are basically knocked out. So it excludes natives of high admission countries, more than 50,000 green cards issued over the previous 5 years. And there's another interesting, no single country may receive more than 7% of the total DV applicants. So there is a per country limitation on lottery participants. This doesn't affect too many countries, but if you happen to come from a country like Ethiopia or, strangely, Uzbekistan, then where the program is very popular, then in fact that per country limitation is relevant. Okay, so who are the countries that are not eligible? So everybody except those people who are born in Bangladesh, Brazil, Canada, China mainland, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, India, Jamaica, Mexico, Pakistan, Peru, Philippines, South Korea, United Kingdom, except for Northern Ireland. We got to let in the lucky Irish, and its dependent territories, and Vietnam. Those countries are out. The good news is natives of South Sudan. I'm sure many of you hadn't heard of the country of South Sudan, brand new country. Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan are in fact eligible. So we have a list of various countries where people who are born in these countries are not eligible, but the good news is we're going to talk about cross-chargeability, and we're going to talk about how, if you were born in one of those countries, you could rush out and get married to a Frenchman, sorry, bad joke, and actually be eligible. I do try and make some silly jokes along the way, but hopefully we won't get comments back on those. Natives of South Sudan, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan are eligible, and then we will define the word native. Now, there are 3 methods to determine native. That is the applicant's country of birth. So if I'm born in South Africa, I am a native of South Africa, and that's how we determine eligibility for the DV program. The spouse, my wife happens to be born in China, so let's assume both of us were immigrants, and my wife is in fact born in China, she would be able to apply for the DV lottery. The good news is she's an American citizen. But if both of us were living in our native countries, that is South Africa and China, even though my wife is born in China, we would get 2 tickets to the green card lottery, and everybody knows 2 tickets is better than 1 because it increases our chances of success by 100%. By the way, if my math is a little bit off, that's why I went to law school, and my addition and math isn't always accurate, but nevertheless it will make for some interesting comments. Now, we get into something a little bit more difficult. Parent's country of birth. If applicant was born in an ineligible country of which neither parent were born nor resident at the time of applicant's birth, they may in fact be cross-charged to either of the parents' countries. Now, I actually have been successful in winning cases using the so-called missionary exception. It makes total sense. Imagine if I had a French or German parent on a temporary assignment in a temporary assignment in China, and I was born in China while my parents were just there on a 6-month assignment. Does that knock me out of the green card lottery? And the answer is no. I get to choose which parent I could actually cross-charge to. So if one of my parents was from Africa and the other of my parents was from South America, I would absolutely cross-charge to my African parent because the chances of winning under that lottery are substantially higher than if I, sorry, lost my train of thought. Let's move on to the next point. Always check applicant's country of birth at the time of application, not birth. Oh my gosh, we're getting so confused here. You know, borders between Germany and Poland, borders between Poland and Russia, they moved around. We're not interested in what your country was called when you were born there. It may have been called Poland, it may have been called Germany. Today it's called Russia. Therefore, if it's called Russia today, you actually cross-charge to what we, the United States, call it today, and we're not interested in what it says on your birth certificate. Boy, are we getting complicated, but it all depends on what the United States Department of State calls you. So, for example, some people may think Hong Kong is part of China, but as far as the lottery is concerned, Hong Kong is not part of China, and those folks get to, in fact, participate in the green card lottery. This is important for cross-chargeability. Those of you who are married are able to cross-charge through to the various states. Now, we are going to do a little poll after this. As I explained, I'm not very good with technology, so my assistant, Daniel Manuel, who is in fact the genius of technology, is going to jump in after this slide, and yes, there's going to be a test. But the good news is the score won't really matter. We're just going to have some fun with our little polling. So let's talk a little bit about cross-chargeability. We're going to now cross-charge. I've actually dealt with all of these from non-eligible country to an eligible country. So if applicant is born in Brazil, which is a non-eligible country, whereas a spouse is born in South Africa, both get to apply. Brazil was not eligible, whereas last year 50,000 Africans were in fact eligible. So the first type of cross-chargeability is where you move somebody out of a non-eligible country into an eligible country by virtue of marriage. Now, the second point that I'm talking about is cross-charging to overcome per-country limitations. Because of the 7% limitation, if you have an applicant who's born in Egypt, which routinely exceeds the 7% per-country limitation, but their spouse is born in South Africa, rather than apply under one Egyptian ticket and one South African ticket, you actually want to apply under 2 South African tickets, because that will increase your chances of success, because Egyptians are often oversubscribed under the 7% criteria. Cross-charging from a lower allocation region to a higher allocation region. Now, this is really very significant stuff, and if you learn one point and you have the ability to do this, South America's allocation was 2002. Let's repeat that. The whole of South America gets 2002 visa allocation, whereas Africa gets 50,000. So if my math is any good, that would be 25 times greater success if you were born in South Africa than if you were born in Argentina. And I think that translates to something like 25,000%, but if I've added a zero, please excuse me. So if you had an Argentinian who was married to a South African, you would cross-charge both tickets to South Africa, and your Argentinian spouse would increase the chances of success by 25,000%. Okay, I'm going to get over all this technical stuff. And then there's also something called cross-charging to overcome rapid visa exhaustion. This is very, very unlikely but relevant for some people who end up winning the lottery and not getting their green card. If an applicant is born in Ethiopia or Uzbekistan, both of which happen to be oversubscribed countries which have rapid visa exhaustion, and their spouse is born in Swaziland, very small country in South Africa, where they only have few applicants, you definitely want to cross-charge both of your applications through to Swaziland so you can get yourself ready. Folks, are we confused yet? Well, you know what? You don't need to learn all those rules. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump over to our little poll, and I'm going to get the help of my wonderful assistant, Daniel Manuel, who is going to ask us a few questions, and all of you get to vote if you want to as to what the questions are. Let's see if this works. We're about to launch our little poll and see, did that work, Daniel?
We should start getting results once they...
Okay, so I'm going to read the questions and see if, in fact, the results come up. 7% of you have already voted, 8, 10, 12, 15. Wow, folks are having fun. Looks like we're actually getting, whoa, 74%, 16%. Wow, wow, wow. Everybody, 41%. I'll give this about 36. We've got a very sophisticated audience here indeed. I'll just read the questions. I'm a DB applicant born in a country that is not eligible. Remember, that's not eligible to apply for the green card lottery, but I'm married to a person who is from an eligible country. My spouse and I can submit one lottery green card application each, true or false. We'll hold off the answer. Number 2, only the person born in the eligible country can apply and the other person cannot, true or false. Number 3, neither person can apply, true or false. Those are our 3 questions, and let's see where we are. Daniel, do you want to take us to the answers? And I will then see how everybody, in fact, scored on this one.
So 71% answered.
72% of answered true to question number 1, and 72% got that right. So not a bad score for those of you. This is a very complex issue. Only the person born in the eligible country can apply, and the other person cannot. True or false? The answer is false. Help me read that answer, Daniel.
So 20% who answered only the person born in eligible country, they got it wrong, basically.
Oh, 20% of you are wrong. Okay, so there we are. The simple bottom line is that either party can, in fact, apply. Let's move to question number 3. Neither person can apply, true or false. The answer is false, and pretty much everybody...
2% answered false.
Only 2% answered false, so 98% of you got that right. Let's jump over to poll number 2, have a little bit more fun. It looks like we have a very sophisticated audience here today who's managed to do this. So it's the same question. I'm a DV applicant born in a country that is not eligible to apply for the green card lottery, but I'm married to a person who is from an eligible country. I kind of gave you a heads up when I explained my own situation. My spouse and I can. So here are the facts. I was born in China while my French, nope, that's not the one. It's the last one that I explained. So I was born in China while my French parents were on a temporary work visa assignment there. Even though China-born persons are not eligible, I can still apply because of the missionary exception. True or false? This one shouldn't be too hard. I think we have all our answers, and yes, we got 100% success. Learn about the missionary exception when your parents were temporarily in that country. Now, this could be even more complicated. You know, when Pakistan and India separated, we had a situation at the present time, both India and Pakistan were not eligible, but there was a time when Pakistan was eligible and India was not. And the question is, could we cross-charge for people who were born, had Indian passports but were born in what was then Pakistan. We made the argument, we got a few of those approved, but the simple bottom line is that that particular point is not relevant today. So let's move ourselves on here to slide number 9, which high school education or equivalent. Now, the important point is only the principal applicant, that means the winner, has to in fact comply with this requirement, which is kind of an important point because sometimes the spouse may not in fact meet either the education or experience qualification. Now, this is completion of a 12-year course of elementary and secondary study. That is a 12-year course. If you did 11 years, you may well find that your credentials are not acceptable even though you won the green card lottery. Now, the Department of State does publish a foreign education credentials required guidebook with country-specific information on the education certificate. They will actually tell you what is the certificate. If you happen to come from South Africa, it's called a matric certificate that you would need in order to qualify, that would certify that you've had 12 years of appropriate education. Now, vocational degrees do not qualify. They are not considered a basis for further academic study, so sadly vocation does not in fact meet the requirements. Now, if you plan to adjust status in the United States, if you are selected, when you are selected, let's be optimistic, you need to do a degree evaluation because the immigration folks are not always familiar with these type of credentialing, and you actually want to do those of you who are familiar with credential and credential evaluation services, you actually know what I'm talking about. Those of you who do not need to do degree evaluations if you win the lottery. Of course, if you have a bachelor's or master's degree from a U.S. college, that will generally supersede the degree evaluation. But strangely enough, I will sometimes do an evaluation even for somebody with a U.S. bachelor's or master's because people get confused, some of the examiners, and there's always a timing issue. Moving on, alternative work experience. This actually gets super complicated. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm going to be a little bit of a snooty lawyer and say that if you actually are selected under the lottery and you choose to apply under the work experience requirement, this is where I'm going to unabashedly say, call the Wolsdorf immigration law firm. You've got the number. It's 1-800-VISA-LAW. Ask for the lottery department. We have developed enormous expertise. So if you win and you do not have the high school diploma, you really need to be careful because you have to prove that within 5 years of the date of application, you must have at least 2 years of work experience in an occupation which requires at least 2 years of training or experience. Now, this brings us into the wonderful SVP codes, standard vocational preparation time. Complicated stuff, folks. If you have a bachelor's degree under SVP, that counts for a total of 2 points under the SVP. If you have 2 years of work or experience, that can count, but it's only if you have it in a relatively sophisticated occupation. So if you are trying to qualify, I have actually challenged these rules. I think they're wrong. I would argue that the top of an SVP 6 range actually qualifies you as a lottery winner. The problem is the State Department's going to deny you. So let's move on. You've got to look at the DOL ONET online database, but this is super complicated stuff, and I don't have any hesitation to say that if you win under this, you really need professional assistance. So there's my sales pitch for today. Special requirements for the EDB entry form. Family members. Now, I've mentioned that a lot of people, the government actually published this. I don't think it's an accurate statistic, but in 1 year, many years ago, they published that 40% of applicants were knocked out because they didn't comply with the technical requirements. I mean, 40%, folks, that's a pretty high number. I don't believe the number is currently that high. However, 40% compliance means you need to read these instructions and make sure you apply. If you come from Africa or Europe, you really want to be doing this green card lottery program. There's one little point before I get into this. Those of you who understand something called non-immigrant tent, this is not on my slide, but visitors visas or student visas, sadly, the government has opined in May 23, 2001, that lottery is an immigrant petition. So when you apply for a non-immigrant visa on Form DS-160 because you're a student or a visitor and they ask a question, have you ever applied for an immigrant visa? The answer is you do need to put in there DV Lottery 2013 or DV Lottery 2012. And if the consular officer says, why did you apply for the lottery? That shows you have immigrant intent. Of course, you have to tell the truth. But one of my clients had the best answer I've ever heard. I applied for the lottery because I love lotteries. I applied for the Kellogg's lottery. I applied for the California lottery. I always buy tickets, but I never win. That seems to get a laugh, and nobody takes it seriously because the honest truth is this a real expression of immigrant intent? The answer is really depends what's in your head, and I can't tell you. But many people don't, in fact, wish to immigrate permanently. They merely just love playing lotteries. They do the Kellogg's Rice Krispie lottery. They do all the various competitions because they just love cutting off and clicking on and maybe winning a prize. And this is a big prize, folks. It's not easy to get a green card. And the real truth is the green card lottery works very well. Let's go on to the specifics of the program. Family members. You do need to provide information on your spouse and all unmarried children under the age of 21, regardless of whether they live with the applicant or intend to immigrate. The only exception is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse or child. Big problem if you're separated from your wife. The big question is, will she cooperate in giving you the documentation, including her picture that you need? I've had 2 or 3 folks who threw in the towel because they just knew that their current wife from whom they were separated, I'm being a little sexist here, it probably works both ways, simply will not cooperate, but that information does have to be provided. Point number 2, photograph. Folks, I don't always talk this quickly. There's a lot of information to cover, so I'm trying to get it all through and hope you're finding it interesting, if not at least a little entertaining. Photographs. You need a recent digital photograph of both applicant, their spouse, and each unmarried child under the age of 21, even if the child no longer resides with the applicant or the child will not immigrate under the DV program. The only exception, of course, is if that child is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Get this one wrong, folks, win the lottery, and you will be disqualified, and you will be depressed. Well, maybe you won't be depressed, but the bottom line is, can you imagine you win the lottery and you forget to put in your child who's living abroad with mom, and bingo, you're knocked out. Caution. If the digital image does not conform to the technical requirements, the EDV form will be requested. I'm not going to tell you that it's X number of pixels or something like that, but make sure you have the appropriate picture. Otherwise, there will be a rejection. Now, you do have to designate your country of chargeability, and now that you're all experts in cross-chargeability or alternative chargeability, I can tell you that you know more than the average immigration lawyer does about the concept of cross-chargeability or alternative chargeability. You do need to indicate the highest level of education because that is a very important thing. Now, let's move on to, I forgot to no, I didn't forget to fast forward. Okay, I'm getting confused with my own slides. Here are the various 6 regions. I've already explained all of this. The Kentucky Consular Center sorts the DV entries into 6 geographic regions. The truth is there are 6, in fact, lotteries, and then the computer randomly selects entries from each of the following regions. My question is, how random is this? I mean, is this lottery rigged or what? Africa gets 50,000 of these visas. Europe gets 30. Last year, Europe got 31,001. Asia got 15,002. South America, boy, they got ripped off. They only got 2,002 visas. That's not fair. Oceania, which is almost, you know, how many people live in Australia and New Zealand? By the way, my daughter's in New Zealand, so, you know, I should be kind of partial, but she grew up here in LA, but she studied there and loves the place. So Oceania, beautiful place. Is that the reason why we give them 2,001 visas? Oceania, Australia, and New Zealand get the same number of visas as South America? Folks, this lottery is a very funny lottery because it's not a fair lottery. As my 7-year-old would say, Dad, that's no fair. Okay, North America, you know, that's Bermuda. Let's give them 15 visas, and that's the way it works. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the selection process, folks. Hope you're having a pleasant and entertaining afternoon, all becoming DV green card experts. The selection process. The KCC routinely selects 100,000 winning tickets for only 55,000 green cards. Actually, this year, only 50,000 because we've allocated 5,000 to Nicara. Within each region, now this is important stuff, folks. The first thing when somebody calls me and says they've got a lottery winner, what I ask them is, what's your registration number? Okay? This is your rank serial number, and it's super duper important. I couldn't pronounce that. Super duper important. Okay, within each region, the first randomly selected entry will be the first registered for that region. The second selected entry will be the second registered, so that the case numbers will look like this. AF blah 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 1, AF blah 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 2. This person with Africa number 1 and Africa number 2 is almost certainly a winner if they can overcome the next hurdles. Because this is like a, what can we say, a hurdle race. Jump over one and you've got one other standing there. Get over all these hurdles and you'll be one of the lucky ones. I'm going to brag at this point. I can honestly say that over the past 20 years that this office has been handling DV programs, we've been about 95 to 98% successful in turning lottery winners into green card. Considering the statistics are only 1 and 2, we beat the odds, but that's because, we know what we're doing, and at the end of this, you're going to all know what you're doing as well. So if you are selected in this program, you're going to be able to navigate to the finish line and get yourself a green card. The State Department's Visa Bulletin. You can just Google the word Visa Bulletin, and it's going to bring up the State Department Visa Bulletin. They publish immigrant visa number availabilities per DV applicant based on the assigned number or case number that I just explained. So the way it works is based on your rank serial number, your so-called priority date becomes current, except with DV it's even more complicated because they project the numbers for the next 60 days. So they will project the visa numbers for the next 2 months, and that will allow you to adjust status or immigrant visa process abroad based on the projected DV numbers. This is very different from regular visa processing where you have to wait for your number to be current. In the DV program, they actually process or project the numbers for the next 2 months. Folks, this stuff gets complicated. Oh my gosh, I did not know all of these things. Actually, I had to brush up even for this webinar. So, okay, the selection process continued. Starting May 1, 2012, okay, that's when you get to check it. All DV applicants can check if they won by checking into the DV lottery, www.dvlottery.state.gov. There's no @ signed in there. You notice those are dots. If you lose your confirmation number, you are toast. Toast, toast, toast. You will not be able to find out whether you won. Do not lose your DV lottery number. And that's why I'm worried about these websites that rip you off, because if they don't have your confirmation number, you are gone. Selectees, registrants, whatever they want to call them, their spouses and children must complete the process for obtaining their visas between October 1, 2012 and September 30. That is the Diversity Green Card Lottery Program. We just blogged on this. If you go to my website, you can connect on to, there's the web posting for this particular one, connect.wolsdorf.com/question P-1029. The other way is just go to wolsdorf.com, click on the little word blog, and you will see this interesting story we just published. It was also on BID Daily. It's being picked up, and it seems to be going viral. Our little, we call it the Cinderella visa. Isn't that cute? Okay, let's go to number 15, consular processing versus adjustment of status. Folks, we are now in Immigration 504. This is very advanced stuff. If you are in fact selected in the green card process, do you consular process or do you adjust status in the United States? This is very difficult. In order to adjust status in the United States, which is very nice, you have to have valid status and you must not have engaged in unauthorized employment unless you are eligible under Section 245I. That is, you are grandfathered by virtue of the fact that you filed for a green card before April 30th, 2001. Folks, you are getting a headache. I'm getting into advanced immigration processing. Those of you who know what's going on in immigration will understand that adjustment is one option. The other option, of course, is consular processing. That's when you go abroad to a consul to pick up your green card. They run all these checks. Folks, I actually strangely prefer consular processing in an overwhelming number of cases. If I've got a good, clean case, I cannot answer the question whether to consular process or adjust until such time as I've evaluated whether you have a high-ranked serial number, whether you have unauthorized employment, whether you meet the qualifications, whether you have lawful status. Folks, this stuff gets complicated. So if you win the green card lottery, or if you have a friend, you can tell them to come onto my webinar next year, or you can tell them to email me at visalaw@bernardwolf. What's my email address? visalaw@wolsdorf.com. I'm talking so fast I'm forgetting my name. All right, let's move on to potential pitfalls. I've mentioned a few of these. I'm going to fly through them because each one is a 1-hour lecture, and I'm going to try and finish this on time so you can carry on with the rest of your day. Folks, where we are right now is grounds of inadmissibility and bars to adjustment. Inadmissibility is so-called bad guy things, and they prohibit you from obtaining a green card. If you're applying to adjust in the United States, even 1 day of being out of status or 1 day of working without permission will be a denial of adjustment of status unless you have Section 245I grandfather protection and you get to pay a big fine and they allow you to get your green card in the United States. You need 245I to adjust if you have any unlawful status. Now, let's suppose you are undocumented, illegal, out of status, whatever you want to call it. If you win the lottery and you need to leave the country and you do not have valid status, and you have 180 days of unlawful presence in the United States, so you came on a tourist visa, you overstayed, you leave the United States, you then trigger a 3-year bar. By the way, that goes up to a 10-year bar if you have 1 year of unlawful presence. If you are F1DS, then you do not accrue unlawful presence, but be careful. There's all sorts of new interpretations coming down. For example, Canadians who supposedly don't accrue for unlawful presence, all the Canadians who overstayed their visa when they go back to Montreal are now being found to have been unlawful presence even though they didn't even know that they were accumulating unlawful presence. So why are we picking on the Canadians? I think they must have been watching South Park too much. I don't know, there's something there about picking on Canadians. All right, my favorite people. No compliance with the 2-year home residence requirement. In some of the prior lotteries, if you had the 2-year home residence requirement by a J, being on a J1, there was an automatic waiver. No, not so anymore. Now you have to get a no objection waiver or one of the other grounds in order to qualify for a green card. Criminal convictions, yep. If you got serious criminal convictions, or you don't, but you have, drug or alcohol problems that could come up in your medical, or you've got some DUI arrests, no convictions that is, or other grounds of inadmissibility, you can in fact be knocked out. Visa fraud, misrepresentation, you've lied on an application, that's a permanent bar. Public charge, this is the one that really gets me. You know, you've got a high school graduate, you come from a poor country, and the question is, do you need to meet current poverty datum guidelines? For a family of 4, that's $22,350. Wow, you know, in a lot of countries, not even the rich guys earn that kind of money, so that's a problem. Be careful of internet fraud and scams. It's kind of tough here being an immigration lawyer saying watch out for all the scams. The truth is we've been focused in this. We don't really punt this program heavily, but it is something that we do quite regularly. We are now done with our potential questions, and Daniel, you're going to tee us up for our next poll. I need your technical help, so let's go ahead and ask our questions. Which of the following is a problem when applying for a green card after being registered? So in this case, you have been selected for the green card lottery, one of the lucky 100,000, and you have the following question. Right. So your answers are the first one, and all of you are reading this and answering these. Wow, everybody's getting it right. I don't even know if I'm going to go to the finish line. Spelling your name differently on the application than how it appears on your birth certificate. 97, 90, oh, someone went to 94. Okay, you got to have, oh, can I answer that, Daniel? Question number one, everybody's already got it. Simple bottom line is only 1 or 2 people didn't get it. Your birth certificate name must be identical. So if your birth certificate says Muhammad with 3 M's, you better have 3 M's on your lottery application, or you are toast on the DV lottery program. Now, submitting question number 2, submitting several applications with the same name. Okay, so if you are submitting several applications, so my name is Bernard Wolsdorf, and I decide to submit several applications under the same name. Is that a problem? Is that a problem? This question is hard to get right, Daniel. Here's the simple bottom line. Looks like everybody's pretty much got that one right as well. I always remember this when the State Department told me there was a Russian lady and she submitted 6 different applications online, but she had a different colored wig in each one. One red, one black, one blonde, and she figured nobody would get that. The simple bottom line is, unfortunately, she was disqualified. And if you do naughty things, they could even hit you for misrepresentation or fraud and add an additional 99%, a 99-year bar for fraud. Let's go to our final question of the day. This sounds like a game show. Involuntary membership in a totalitarian or communist party. Now remember, the law was written in 1952, Immigration Act. So communists are barred from coming to the United States. Communists cannot have green card. However, if it was involuntary membership, that means you come from China and you were automatically enrolled in the party because it was a youth Boy Scouts kind of program, Girl Scouts kind of program. That is regarded generally as involuntary membership, and you won't be eligible. But if you come from China anyway, you probably won't be eligible to participate in the lottery. But the rules are more complicated on that, but these are called grounds of inadmissibility. So the simple bottom line, folks, is pretty much everybody got those polls right. We are now finished our potential pitfalls. Daniel is going to click me out of the poll. Thank you, everybody. Got that one right. What's happening? Is my computer freezing up here, Daniel? Okay, let's go to now we go to the question and answer session. Folks, we have been, wow, I haven't dropped a single participant. Sounds like you folks are having a lot of fun. And now you all know everything you need to about the audience, so about the green card lottery. So you now have a chance to ask questions. Oh my gosh, there are so many questions. Questions are always a lot of fun. I wasn't even watching this. Thank goodness Daniel is going to help me. Question number 1. Will attend... Oh, Daniel's telling me to hold on. Daniel.
These are technical questions. Right?
No, but the top one is a good one. Oh, we're getting rid of that. I guess technical questions. I always have is not inside the frame. There were a lot of technical questions. Woo-wee. Come on, Daniel. I like this one here, dual Canadian. I have a dual Canadian and Austrian passport, but was born in Austria. Is it a problem to hold a Canadian passport? No, no, no. You are very lucky, Mr. or Mrs. Canadian/Austrian. Because you're born in Austria, you are eligible to apply for the green card lottery, and may you win at least one time. Come on, Daniel. Technical questions, technical questions. Whoa, what region is Spain? Spain is Europe, folks. Spain is Europe. Spain is beautiful. Spain, I've actually been to Spain once. I want to go again. And if Europe, what percentage of winners is allocated to Spain? Good question. Okay, so 30,000 of the 100,000 winners go to Europe, and Spain cannot have more than 7%. Let me tell you, as a Spaniard, you've got a decent chance of winning. Let's go to the next question. Question number, my husband was selected in the DV 2000. Wow, bingo. You know, the funny thing is every one of you, stop at that, every one of you knows somebody who's won the green card lottery, particularly if you're from Europe or Africa. My husband was selected in the DV 2012 lottery. He entered the lottery as single. Ouch, because we were not married at the time. Good. Okay, so you what we call a following to joint spouse. We're both on an F1 in the U.S. We're planning to do adjustment of status. Bravo, that's good. The Kentucky Consul will only be aware of the principal applicant. That's true. They do not process AOS, correct? If we should submit form or our married status now, yes, yes, yes. You're what we call an after-acquired spouse. Congratulations. I hope he bought you a nice big wedding ring. And on to the relevant portion of this. You know, there's a memo that went out. The easiest way to get a green card is, trick question, marry an American citizen or marry a lottery winner. Which one is better? Marry a lottery winner. I mean, you know, the bottom line is you're going to end up getting a green card in about 6 months. You marry an American citizen, full green card processing takes 3.5 to 4 years. However, the government's very suspicious. People who get married to lottery winners are looked at very carefully, and you better have good evidence, very good evidence that this was a legitimate marriage. So I want a big wedding. I want a big wedding album. I want a big diamond ring. Sorry, we'll drop the diamond ring. Not everybody can do that. Zirconia will work. Sorry, stop being silly. If one spouse is a native of Spain and the other, didn't we answer that? And the other is a native of Canada, can the spouse from Canada also apply? Yes, yes, yes. 2 Spanish tickets, please. Can also apply. We can only do 1 application under the spouse. 1 each, 1 ticket each. You apply for the lottery and call me when you win. Question. My wife was born in Iran, lucky man, while her father was working as a doctor for Shell there. Both parents are British. Wow. And she has a British passport too. My nationality is German. Okay, so cross-charge her through to Germany for several reasons. Number 1, she cross-charges to Britain. Bingo, she's knocked out. So even though your wife is born in Iran, sir, we covered this. This is complex stuff. Your wife was born in Iran, lucky man, and her father was temporarily there, I gather, is what you're saying, missionary exception. Both parents are British, bravo, and my nationality is German. My last name is German. I don't speak it. I wish I did. Is she eligible? Your wife is absolutely eligible. The answer to your question, sir, is 2 German tickets. 2 German tickets based on that. Wow. Do the photographs have to be submitted at the time of application? Yes, yes, yes. Or can they come in afterwards? Wow, I think you got me stumped. You know, to complete the application, you do need to put them. Get your pictures, scan them in. Here's the funny thing. I'm not the guy in our firm who actually does this. We have teams of people who are data trained, but I'm going to go with please get your picture. Make sure we submit it at the time of the application. I don't think you can submit it online without it. Let's go to our next questions, folks. If you have a last name, oh, I think I'm going to get stumped on this one. If you have a last name like Rodriguez Alonso and no middle name, do you enter exactly as is, or do you need a between? Wow, a hyphen. You know, the funny thing is they just addressed this on the I-9 program. I'm going to encourage you to email me offline. Stop on that question. I love that question. This is where you have Latino names. And, you know, Latino names, it's sort of automatic. When you get married, you take one from each side. The question is, do you put a hyphen on it? I would want to know what's on your marriage certificate. I want to see how your marriage certificate, I think there's a little bit of flexibility, but you got me really nervous with the hyphen right now. And I'm going to say, strike out to you, 1 free, what can I ever offer? 1 free something, because I can't answer that one right now. It's just too tough for me. Whoa-wee. Is a DUI considered a criminal conviction? Okay. DUI is very complicated. DUI is evidence that you are a threat to yourself or others. I had a single case of a student applying in London. They send you, if you have a single conviction within the past 5 years on a non-immigrant visa, they will send you off to a panel physician to see whether you are a danger to yourself or others. That fellow did not retain me, sorry, sounds like a sales pitch, and was actually denied his visa. A single DUI on its own will not disqualify you, but in the medical, the issue will come up as to whether or not you are a danger to yourself or other people. Which country, which one are you doing, Daniel?
This one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Which country is better to apply under, Kenya or Tanzania? You have a choice, and the answer is probably neither. It's not going to make a big difference. My guess is there's more Kenyan applications than there are Tanzanians. I do not think that either would be hit the 7% annual limitation. The countries in Africa were Ethiopia, Egypt. I don't think either Kenya or Tanzania has a chance, but if you're cross-chargeable, I'm going to take a safe bet and say Tanzania is better. Tanzania, very close to my native South Africa. I haven't been there yet. One day I'm going to get there. Daniel, which one? A young person has more chance than an old person. Beep, no ways. There's no discrimination based on age, so old guys like me are in good shape. A lot of my clients here, I hope you're enjoying this. On the application, do they ask for the parents' names? No, that's not important. I'm Australian. My wife is Argentinian born. Will it matter which country we apply for? Absolutely, yes. Living in at the time. Will it matter which country we apply from? No, doesn't matter where you apply from. It's an online application. But what I can tell you is this. You as an Australian have a whole lot more chance of success than your wife is an Argentinian. So what you need to do is cross-charge both your applications to Oceania. I was already talking about how Oceania gets a quota of 2,000 and the whole of South America gets. Let me ask you a question, sir. Do more people live in Oceania or in Australia / Oceania? The answer is South America. Did I ask that question right? The bottom line is cross-charge both answers to Australia. Your wife applies cross-chargeable to Australia. What is the time frame? It's 30 days starting tomorrow. November 5 is the cutoff date, so you need to get moving fast. Wow, we have lots of interesting questions. A young graduate has more chances. Somebody who graduated? No. Degree makes no difference. Chance does not. You could have a PhD, tough luck. We don't care. I'm working in the U.S. on an H-1B. I'm Canadian. My kids were born in the U.S., therefore they're U.S. citizens. Do I have to list them? No. Exception, but hold it a second. Canadians are not eligible, so Canadians are knocked out this year. Sorry, sir. No Canadians. But if your wife is from somewhere other than Canada, and the exception for you is you can leave your kids off. If I have a foreign degree similar to a U.S. bachelor's degree, do I meet the requirements? True, good question. They really want to focus on your high school diploma. You need to do an evaluation. So the question is, if you don't have a high school, the equivalent of a high school diploma, you could have an issue. They're going to want to look at your bachelor's degree and make sure that it's evaluated correctly. My last name is different than from my birth father. Doesn't really bother me. I only really want to know whether or not, the name that you use is a name on your birth certificate. So when you apply, pull out your birth certificate, see what it says, and type that one in. I have a vocational school degree from Austria. Many of my Austrian clients do, and the answer is beep. Nope, you don't make it. But hold it a second. Remember, there's two ways to qualify. One is based on education, and the other is based on experience. Most of my Austrian clients have very advanced technical skills, so the answer is good news. Yes, you probably get to apply. We need to see your resume. We need to see if you qualify with an SVP of 7 based on the fact that you have 2 years of education, training, or experience in an occupation which requires 2 years education or experience, also known as an SVP of 7. If my mom wins a GC, the green card, she can give it to me. Well, are you under 21? If you're over 21, nope, you are aged out, tough luck, sorry, no winner. But if your mom wins the green card lottery and you are under 21, bingo, you win. And oh my gosh, there's so many cool questions. If my mom wins a green card, she can give it to me if you're under 21. Otherwise, here's the bad news. Your mom gets a green card. She's got to file for you under the F2B category. And the waiting line, Daniel's what, 3-4 years at the time? So 3 or 4 years. The bottom line is she can get the green card and then pass it out to you. Hello, I'm Greek EU. I have a bachelor's degree from an accredited U.S. university and an MBA from an Italian university. You are well educated. Do I need to prove... Do I need to prove a 12 years education certificate? I would do it, yes, if you have your high school diploma. Also, do I need to prove any work experience? It's either or, so you don't need both. It sounds to me that if you have a bachelor's degree from an accredited U.S. university, but I've had this before. I've had this problem with people with U.S. bachelor's degree, and they want to see the high school diploma from abroad. So just get me your high school diploma. You can find it somewhere in your mother's storage basement. What about an O2 visa holder from a country from Scandinavia with a 2-year, wait a second. Oh, okay, so you were J1, you jumped to an O2. Any way for that person to do the lottery? Look, you can do the lottery. The problem is if you select it, can we pass it to the green card? I actually addressed your question. You, sir, are a J1 subject. You need a waiver of the 2-year foreign resident requirement. The fact that you've superseded it on your O2 does not mean you qualify. What is this? A loud microphone, so it's not a problem. I'm talking too loud. Okay, so the bottom line is, sir, you're from Scandinavia. Go get a waiver. Contact your embassy. Get a no objection letter. Unless you're Fulbright, you're probably toast. Let's move on to the next one. Does the picture have to be taken digitally, or can it be a scan? You know, it doesn't. We've actually been able to, some of our clients, what they do is they provide a regular picture and they mail it to us and we scan it in. So if you're not a technical person, we've been able to do that. We do want a good resolution. If my mom wants a reason, could you give it to me? Okay, I have not answered this. If an F1 student won DV lottery, but then his AOS is denied, I answered that one in a way. Very good question. Okay. It often depends on what happens. At some schools, when the F1 applies for adjustment of status, they terminate them in the CVIS database. I encourage my students to maintain their F1 status while the adjustment of status is pending, to keep in lawful status so that if the adjustment is denied, they can revert back. But if they were silly enough to terminate their studies just because they won the lottery and didn't realize that one day of unauthorized employment, or worse still, there was visa exhaustion, their number never came up. That's the big danger. This is a very specific case. I need the facts of the case. You can get me offline. Email me at bernard@wolsdorf.com. If you can spell my last name, you should get a free green card. What's the next one? My husband has an H-1 visa and is going to apply offline. Can he also apply online? And also, if I apply online, I have H-4 status. Could this harm his application? I don't see a problem there. I'm very comfortable with that, so I think you're in good shape. How do you cross-charge? There's a question on the online application which asks you to designate your country of chargeability. So you listen to Bernie Wolsdorf, you know all the rules, and then you're in good shape. Daniel's giving me the next one. What version of Internet Explorer do we use, and what is a really good website? Hey, my website's a really good website. So is the State Department's website. Or is this automatically done when you enter the country of birth, or do you need to specify somewhere on the application? You specify on the application. You've got to list country of chargeability. Please explain the visa application disclosure of applying. Oh, yeah, somebody wanted the intent issue. I think I got that one already. I'm going to repeat it. April 23, 2001. Boy, I don't know. I'm relying off memory, but here's the simple bottom line. Assistant Secretary of State Mary Ryan opined that a DV petition is an immigrant visa petition. Yes, it is an immigrant visa petition. It therefore needs to be disclosed. But as I mentioned earlier, does it express immigrant intent? Well, if you say, I applied for the lottery because I want to live in the United States permanently, they got you on DV and permanent intent, and you could very well be barred a student visa or a visitor's visa for having expressed immigrant intent. But one of my clients who keeps telling me about how he loves doing the Kellogg's Rice Krispie and every other lottery he can find would possibly not be expressing immigrant intent. This is complicated stuff, folks. It's really very advanced. What is the link? That is the one that I read out earlier. Oh, gosh, I got to go back. If you just Google the word DV lottery, you're going to get it. Make sure you go with the top one because that's the State Department website. So that's where you would find it. I'm born in Russia but hold an Indian passport. We don't care about passports. I'm studying from India and I'm currently studying in the U.S. My parents were born in India as well. Am I eligible? No such luck, but if you get married to a country other than the one you're born in, you're eligible. Sorry, bad news. With the current economic climate in the U.S., have the DB application numbers gone down? No, no, no. There's talk about dumping the program, but at the moment it's alive and well. Folks, we are running out of time. We're almost gone. I don't want to live. Last three questions. I'm actually getting. Is it true that people that have joined the lottery many times before have more chances? No. Other than statistically, you may have a chance. With an expired E2 visa and no longer in the U.S., yes, my friend. Yes, my friend. You are my friend, and absolutely you can apply. Can I apply for the DV lottery if I have an E2 visa? Yes, yes, yes. Everybody can apply for the DV lottery. Folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck. May you all win. I want to be hearing from you as to whether you won or not, and And thank you. This time next year, please all log on. Tell your friends about the wonderful Bernie Wolsdorf webinar. We might even do this again in a week or two if there's enough demand. We had an overwhelming response. So thank you from my friend and former client. Well, you're still currently my client. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. Spread the good news, and let's do this again sometime. May you all win the green card lottery, Star Wars. May the force be with you, and let's win. Until next time, thank you so much, and I hope you found this entertaining and informative. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everybody. Bye.